Welcome to No Instructions number 8. I'm Bob.
And I'm Josh.
What's up?
Hey, man.
Hey, it's like we've been together all day long. But
I
hey,
know.
you know. Yeah. So what are we doing today?
We are finally done with the helicopter.
Yeah.
The ghost is on hiatus momentarily
Yes.
because we're doing the Lego Voltron.
Lego Voltron. But I'm selfish, and I want to do this by myself.
Okay.
So
What did you do?
I got you a Lego Voltron. So we both have Voltron to do.
I'm gonna hug this Voltron.
We both have Voltron to do. And that was probably really
I'm gonna
loud.
hug
Sorry.
you.
Yeah, I thought it would be more fun to like each do our own.
I'm so happy.
But we have to work at the same pace. You can't come in here and like work on it.
Well, okay, this set is kind of perfect because it's individualized. I can make a lion and we're
Right.
gonna be done. Make another lion, be done. It's not the mass.
Yeah.
It is incremental.
It's
by nature.
multiple sets in one, rather than a big set. I mean, it is a big set. So this thing, for anybody listening, if you're watching, then you can see this. But this is a 2,321 piece set. This is a very large box. It's probably what, I don't know, 20 inches tall, 4 inches wide.
It's about the size
Thick.
of a grown man's torso.
Yeah, it's big. It's really big. So
I don't have my knife.
yeah. So we're gonna start this, and I would assume that each bag is its own lion. Oh wait, I see bag 14. So I was
This
wrong.
has a perforation in the top like a cereal box.
Oh yeah, the bigger ones do, so that you
That
can
is
close the
awesome.
box. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
you
there
can-
is an encyclopedia that comes with this.
Yeah, multiple books. We're gonna go ahead and get the loud out of the way.
Get the splash. Number 3. Number 2. I'm gonna go for low numbers.
Number 1 was on top for me, so I'm just. I was
Number
gonna start
11
there.
was on top.
So each line does have its own book, which is kind of cool. And then there's a number 6 book for, I guess, probably transforming and connecting the whole thing.
I believe
yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, and making the sword and the shield.
I want to make the sword. I don't think that'll take very long, but that sword, I've been very impressed with the design of that sword.
Yeah.
Number 1.
Sweet. Very cool.
We'll do, I don't know, that many.
All right. Get the noise out of the way. Ready? Here it goes.
Man, this is an exciting noise.
Sploosh. Is that the official sound? Did we come up with an official sound?
Swoosh or the crash? It's more of a crash than a swoosh.
Sploosh. Like.
Ew. You don't want that. Nope.
Okay. All right.
Objection.
Fair enough.
Okay, so the first 3 bags, you can get the yellow lion bag.
3 bags?
Yep. 1, 2, 3.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, definitely not doing all 3 bags today. Just for anybody listening, my kids did just get home from school, so there's lots of upstairs noise.
We can talk about that.
We can?
School starting.
Oh, yeah. So have your kids started school yet?
Yeah, so we have started... actually, we haven't started our official like homeschool year because we tried to keep the same year as the public school kids. But we also do a homeschool co-op, which is a classical education method. It's just a group of people, and there's a bunch of them. They're nationwide. This town has 2 of them, and my wife just became the leader of one of them. So she is the director.
El Presidente.
Yeah, she's the dictator of this one faction. I'm going to keep with that whole rhetoric.
That's pretty awesome.
Faction of this homeschool community. And they had their first co-op meeting yesterday. And
So
she said it went perfectly.
So the students haven't started yet.
Yeah, they did.
Oh.
Yeah, all the kids were there.
Oh, I see. I gotcha.
But like the Price Institute hasn't officially, I guess, started at our house.
I see.
The co-op thing has started.
Gotcha. Yeah, my kids started school not last week, but the end of the week before. It started on like a Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
think that's kind of typical.
Get the first 2 days, like throwaway days, out of the way, I guess. My youngest started school,
Right.
went into kindergarten, and that's kind of weird. I mean, it's cool. It's very cool. I'm not upset about it or anything, but it is definitely different. You know, we're so used to having So the ages of my kids are 10, 9, 7, and 5. So basically, we had about 8.5, 9 years of diapers, somewhere in there, straight. We had people starting school pretty much every year or every other year for several years, you know. And so it's kind of like a big change to actually be at a point where it was a big change to have everybody out of diapers. It was a big change to where now everybody's at school. It was a big change when everybody could get themselves dressed. You know, like moments like that where you're like, wow, that whole thing that we've been doing for a long time is now
like, I don't have to do it anymore.
Different, yeah. So it's cool that he's in school. It's also just kind of different and weird to get used to. And my wife has, for the past couple of weeks, been like taking advantage of not having, you know, someone to entertain all day long. And so that's, you know, something she's just kind of adjusting to, but it's cool.
That's one thing I'm kind of not really worried per se, but like with my wife homeschooling, like when she stops or when she's done, it's kind of like she's out of a job.
Yeah.
Like that, it's been such a major part of like our family identity. And I mean, it's you know, far away now because my kids are 8, 4, and almost 3. So we're almost out of pull-ups. So we're out of diapers, but
yeah,
my daughter, like, she won't poop. And I'm trying to like, no, like pooping is awesome. You just get to hang out like by yourself.
That's true. Nobody wants to be with you during that time. So it's a really
perfect you time. Like she doesn't understand right now that it's alone time because she busts in every time we're trying to go to the bathroom. But like, no, you just get to hang out. And so she's in that stage where she won't pee, but she has just this affinity to poop in a toilet. And trying to convince her of the flaw in that logic, and she won't hear it.
Well, I mean, you know, like with all kids, it's just like it doesn't work until it works. And then all of a sudden they start to understand it. And even if they don't get it all of a sudden, at least like, I don't know. That's the way it went with our kids. It wasn't something we had to fight them with. It just took a long time to get them to like say, oh, like not sitting in my own crap. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then after they get that, then they're like, oh, well, maybe this is worth the effort to try to do it. Maybe you don't do it every time, but
maybe my parents aren't so stupid on this one thing. Yeah. Well, how's that going with Flynn in kindergarten? Is he having that same kind of thought process?
He likes it. I mean, we were talking at lunch today that he's been so used to being with older kids, his older siblings, that he's basically one of those kids. So I think he feels a little like they have to take naps. That was the first day he came home, and I'm like, "How was school? You've been so excited about it." And he was like, "Oh, it was okay." I'm like, "What happened? What's wrong?" He's like, "We had to take a nap." I'm like, that's pretty awful, man. Sorry about that.
How dare they?
But I think it's like something that he feels like he's bigger than because he hasn't had a nap for
true.
a couple of years now.
Babies do that.
Yeah, and now they're forced to put their head down on their desk for, I don't know, it's probably like 15 or 20 minutes. But at least for the first few days, that was a thing that troubled him. He was just like, I mean, I like it. It's fun, but we have to take a nap. I'm like, man, it's not really that bad. So, but he hasn't complained about that since. Well, in the last
it's just
3 or 4
him
days.
And beat him down already, and he's like, I guess.
Yeah. So he's liking it though, and we're already seeing where it was hard for us to get him. Like he'd learn his letters and stuff, and he'd kind of get away from them and forget them, and he'd. He was writing some, but not a ton. Mm-hmm. And so now he's coming home with like these papers that are obviously he's practicing letters, specific letters. And so it's like you can see improvement just from him having some dedicated time to it. So, whereas we didn't do enough of that on our own, I guess. But so it's cool. He's digging it. And the other ones are enjoying stuff as well. It's just weird, they're when they get older, and they're in school, they run into new things. So my oldest is in 5th, and so he's running into new ways to say things. Not necessarily bad ways to say things, but like he's picking up new words from people, new ways to describe things. And it's just weird because he'll come home saying stuff I've never heard before. And I'm like, what? Like he was the other day was saying like, he was drawing something, and he was intentionally drawing a goofy looking something, animal or something. He was like, yeah, it's like a derpy something. And I'm like, where did that come from? He's like, it's not a bad word. And I'm like, well, no, I guess it's not a bad word, but it's like like, why would you use that? Like, what's the... He was like, I don't know. It's just something that we say about... I'm like, okay. I guess there's nothing wrong there, but, you know, it's just weird.
You can pick up on all kinds of the cool kid slang you don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I knew the word, but it's just...
Totes,
it's weird
dude.
to... And, you know, and at the same time, like, I remember how I spoke when I was in second grade and the language that I used.
Mm-hmm.
And we've lucked out that our kids don't talk like I talked.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, I'm not complaining. I mean, it's good, but it's just weird to see them change and, you know, pick up new things. My daughter is dealing with ways that other girls her age act out that she's never acted out. Lots of emotions
like
flying
tantrum
around.
kinda?
Well, not really. More just like dealing with emotions and overreacting, being dramatic, things like
Oh.
that. She's never really been that. You know, every kid is that way to a point, but now she's seeing a lot more of that happen because there are other people her age who overreact.
Does she see the futility in it, or she's like, oh,
Yeah, I think it's a
that girl
combination.
gets what she wants
No,
when
I
she
think it's a
freaks out.
combination of
Okay.
like, wow, people do that, and like people my age can act like that, and then she also is like, ooh, I don't want. But then naturally she tests it out
I gotta
too.
try this out, see
Yeah.
if this is worth anything.
So that's kind of frustrating and kind of strange. But she does have a good enough head on her shoulders to realize that it's not really gonna do a whole lot for her, especially with us. Like, we don't put up with that junk and
Say, homie, don't play that, and then just watch her like, what?
what does that mean? Yeah. So, how are yours doing with school?
It's good. This is the first year that my middle son, who is 4, is like starting school. We always like, these are your shapes and these are your colors, and like you can kind of color this thing, while my oldest son like gets his curriculum, like his actual work. And excuse me. And so this year, my 4-year-old is in like the co-op. Like, he's not in the nursery anymore. He's in the big leagues, and he likes it. Like, and there's things that, I mean, I'm here at work that my wife is doing every day, and she makes those little incremental changes. And then I come home, I'm like, wait a minute, you did what?
Yeah, you learned how to do all this stuff?
Like, he can write his name. His name is Isaac, and he hasn't asked me why there is a ridiculously redundant A in his name yet, which I don't have a good answer for. But he just like can write his name, and he can write his name in probably almost as good as his 8-year-old brother.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, Deacon's doing cursive. He can write in cursive better than he can write in regular script. And that's really impressive to me. And how I saw that as completely unnecessary. I was like, cursive is dumb. Why are you even going to waste your time teaching cursive? And I guess it has its merit in some circles, I suppose. But it's easier for him to write.
I wonder why that is. I wonder if there's something about...
It's just the fluidity, maybe, of the motion. I'm not sure.
Or how things are connected versus being separate starts and stops within writing a single thing.
Yeah, because he's always had trouble, like, when he writes an A. Like, he'll make a circle and then make the line, and sometimes those two things won't connect, where it looks like an I and an O and not like a lowercase a.
Yep.
And so I'm like, is the mechanics of you having to, like, and over time you learn that you can just kind of make that. But I think, like, cursive has informed the way that I write now, even though I don't exclusively write in cursive. When I write some letters, they will tend to, like, flow together in one pen stroke. And if you exclusively learn, like, script writing, where everything has a start and a stop, and you pick it up, and so I think cursive is helping.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have said that unless I would have seen my son, like, actually get better at writing with this new introduction of what I thought was a completely useless, like, unless you're going to be a calligrapher.
If you want to write fancy for your whole life. Well, that's cool. I mean, it's people take to different things, and, you know, that's cool that he's better at something, you know, rather than getting worse at something.
Yeah.
Like, that's frustrating. Pick up a new skill and you're worse at it than you were at the other thing.
And at the homeschool co-op that we go to, every week they have to give a presentation. So they stand up in front of the group of people, and they have to present something.
That's cool.
So it's kind of like a show and tell. Sometimes it is based on, like, the information that they're learning, and sometimes it's just, you know, get up and tell us something. And this week it was pretty much a show and tell because it was the first week. And then they have family presentations. So I think next week is our family presentation.
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty sure. What did I do?
So that's the entire family's involved, or
Yeah.
some part of the family's
No,
involved?
like the whole family is supposed to be involved. I've never really gone to it because I've always been at work. But I don't know. I might go and actually be part of my family in this thing.
Huh.
Yeah, but Deacon got up and like he made a Lego ship, and he told everybody all about this Lego ship that he made and what it does and why he chose to put things in certain places. And Isaac found some painted rocks on a couple of their hikes that he's been holding on to like a security blanket, and he showed everybody his cool rocks. And it's little things, but there's structure to it, and they set expectations. Like, okay, whenever you're giving a presentation, you introduce yourself, you talk about your thing, how it's relevant to you, and then ask if there's any questions. And then you as an audience, which I thought was a really good point to make, excuse me, was that when you ask a question, it does not turn into an anecdote about yourself. It doesn't say, like, oh, well, I had one of those things, or I had this. Like, you ask a person so that they can tell you more about their subject or their thing or their presentation topic rather than turning it around and making about you.
Right.
And so they set that expectation early, which I think is really easy for kids to go like, well, I built a ship and I went on a walk with my mom one time. And so they teach them not only how to present in front of people, but also how to be effective and engaging audience.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
Yeah, I thought that was very neat.
That is cool. I mean, at that young of an age, to have to, on a regular basis, get up in front of people to do anything is probably a really good idea.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, a lot of kids won't have to be in that situation until they're in, like, junior high or so.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have to do some sort of presentation. Or maybe, like, late elementary school. But that's, like, you're getting into the most awkward years of your life. Mm-hmm. And then to throw in now you have to be awkward in front of all the people that you think are making fun of you all the time.
Yep. That's
a kind of bad way to start that. So that's a good idea.
I like it. I really enjoy that, like the classical education method. I know Destin has his kids in a classical school. They don't homeschool, but it's a school that has the same kind of principles, and they probably do some of the same things very similarly. But it's stuff that I wouldn't have thought was important. Like they're still learning about Egypt and Mesopotamia, and that's what they were doing earlier. Yeah, they were doing on Monday. They had little maps, and they were all circling all those things. But yeah, that piece about like get up and talk to somebody. Mm-hmm. These are skills that you're going to need your entire life. So might as well start now.
Yeah.
And so that's what I really like about that place.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I had something that I thought of. Oh yeah. So one thing is interesting. I found out about our school that kids go to public school. They have this program, and I can't remember the name of it. It's like Watchdogs or something like that. But it's a program specifically for dads, where a dad can sign up, get a background check, and then they basically become a helper / security guard at the school, like one day a month. And so you schedule it whenever's good for you. You go in and you're just there to help the kids and help the, and it's basically just a way to get dads involved, which I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. And especially, they're good public schools, but in any situation like that, there are going to be a bunch of kids who don't have dads, who don't have father figures, who see their teachers as one thing and their dad as a different thing.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that they are trying to bring dads in a capacity in the school for multiple reasons. I think it's for the dads, for the connection with the kids, but also to be an example for kids who don't have dads, to show like,
I didn't think about that.
Dads can be here and be helpful and be, not awful. Because I think a lot of them, their experience with dads is they're awful.
Well, especially with, any male figure in public school. Like most of the teachers are females. Mm-hmm. And so they may have like the PE coach or whatever might be the guy, but to see real men and they're actually doing some good and helping. And I'm sure that it can help people with security measures and things like that also. And so my neighbor works for the high school, and he is one of the football coaches, but I guess when he's not coaching football, he's not, I don't even know how to describe it. Like he walks around and he works with some of like the troubled students.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was like, you just kind of go like mean mug all the kids whenever they're messing around. He was like, no. He's like, kind of, sometimes. You go in and you flash a dirty look. You're like, hey, you better shape up kind of look. And then he's like, but I guess there's just kids that are troubled and, have disciplinary issues or whatever. And that's what he kind of specializes in. And I guess it doesn't hurt. He's a gigantic, burly, bald guy. He should be a fireman.
Yeah. Well, and a coach is often a good person in that capacity because they already have to know how to deal with a young person to get them to push past their natural tendency. So I think a coach would probably, because I know like my wife's dad did some of that. He was also a basketball coach, football coach, for the girls teams mostly, I think. But he did some of that too, where he would always be the guy who was in charge of the after school, like kind of, when kids would get in trouble and they would have to stay after, he was always the one that got there and had to deal with them. And I think some of the coaching stuff kind of carried over there.
Did you ever get detention?
That's the word I was looking for that I couldn't find.
I'm here to help.
I feel like I got detention maybe one time, but I don't even remember when or what it was for. Did you?
Yeah, a couple times.
Do you know why? Do you remember why?
Because of my smart mouth.
Ooh. That makes sense.
Yeah. I think anybody that really knows me would, if I did anything, I sassed quite a bit. I didn't accept, like, you just need to do it like this. I go, well, that's not good enough. And I think what you're doing is kind of subpar. And I don't know how often you get, like, performance evaluations, but my name is Josh, and I'm a walking, talking performance evaluation. A lot of people, surprisingly, did not take kindly to that.
So that's a surprise to you?
I mean, at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why are we doing this? This is not effective. And they didn't want to hear that from, 9th or 10th grader. And so we had in-school suspension. Did you guys have that?
I've heard of that, but I don't think we had that.
I think it's a huge sham.
Is it like you just get taken out of class to spend time in a box somewhere?
You have to go sit in, like, I think we sat in the lunchroom. And it was just
during school?
Yeah, because it's in school. IS as in-school suspension. Which was I don't remember if I didn't go to class, but I just had to, like, sit. And, like, you could work on your homework, but you couldn't talk.
What?
And so I just worked on my homework in school. And I'm like, this didn't teach me any lessons.
Yeah, it gives you more free time after school, if anything.
I thought it was great. I just kind of got a break. I got to go hang out. It was quiet. There was a couple people that I knew, but, like, you couldn't really socialize with them, which was fine. I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to talk to that kid anyway.
I don't like people anyway.
Yeah,
I don't want to go.
Like, so I just have to sit here, and they're like, yeah, think about what you did. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not. Because I don't think I'm wrong in the first place.
Right.
So if anything, you're just going to make me stew and validate in my own mind what it was that I was doing correct. Which is completely opposite of what they were intending.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm going to use the part separator.
Ooh.
I don't know how.
It's a brick separator.
Somebody,
I don't remember who it was. Somebody left us a comment somewhere, sent us a tweet or something, explaining when that was brought into the Lego verse. It's kind of cool.
That's very handy.
Somebody actually. Oh yeah.
I immediately was gonna go to, like, I'm just gonna bite these off, and I'm like, ooh, I've got the fancy tool.
Yeah. No teeth. No teeth. All right. So do we have a topic? We have a thing. Didn't you? You had a thing you want to talk about, right?
Yeah. Well, we have some more. Or not. I have my cache of pros and cons from Brent that are pretty good. We can do later if we want to, if we have time. I know you have a deadline.
Yeah.
But since we're doing the Voltron set, I thought some reboots, like your thoughts on reboots, some good ones, some terrible ones. Since this kit is modeled after the OG Voltron, but the Voltron on Netflix is pretty awesome.
It is. Have you watched that show?
Mm-hmm.
All of it?
3 seasons? I don't know how many seasons are in right now.
I think they're in like 5 or 6.
That's crazy.
I'm in season 2. I mean, I'm not that far.
Yeah, like Deacon really, really likes it. He likes it more than he's seen it more than I have, but he's engaged. I think it's very well done.
I enjoyed it. I was watching it on the treadmill over the winter when I was running inside, and then now that I've started running outside, I haven't really caught up with any of it. But my kids saw 1 or 2 episodes, just didn't do anything for them. My youngest is kind of interested when it's on, just because it's TV, I think. But yeah, they didn't. But they have no context for it either, so I don't really expect them to like, oh, Voltron. It's just like another show with people in costumes that go into a thing and they transform into a thing, But I enjoy it. I didn't watch a whole lot of the original Voltron. I had Voltron books, like, not comic books, but kind of like story books and activity books. And then somebody I knew had the toys. And I knew of it, and I thought it was cool, but I didn't really watch it. I didn't have any context for it. I didn't really know much about the story or any of that stuff. So I don't really have anything to compare the new one to, the reboot to, but I do enjoy it as its own thing.
I've messed something up here.
What'd you do?
No, that's right. I watched some of the old Voltron. I didn't know that there were as many types of Voltron as there are. Like, there's car Voltron. Do you know about car Voltron?
No.
Yeah, instead of lions, there's cars. It's like the U.S. version. Like, the Voltron that we're putting together was the Japanese version. And this kit is cool because it came to the States. So, like, those numbers, apparently when the lion Voltron came to the States, they wanted them to be labeled as to not confuse people. So that's why they're stickers.
I did hear that.
But there's...
Wait, so the car version was the U.S. version?
From what I understand.
Huh.
Something
I have not heard that at all. All right, well, what's another reboot that you have? How about a reboot that you have not liked? Something awful. There's so many to pick from.
I had a list I was starting because I can't remember anything. Did you see the Beauty and the Beast, the live action Beauty and the Beast?
I did not.
It was bad.
My daughter loved it, but I didn't see
I thought it was bad. I liked the first
See,
one.
like, would you... I guess that's a reboot. That's like a different medium. It feels... Maybe it is the same thing, but... There's been a bunch of them, like, like the latest Jumanji. There's been a bunch of things that...
I haven't seen that latest Jumanji because it looked dumb.
I haven't either. But it's interesting, like, how things like that weren't really that big in the... I mean, I guess it was a big movie in its time. But it wasn't big in the scale of Voltron or Transformers or, these kind of, like, phenomenon. So it's interesting that something like that would get remade. But at the same time, like, they made a Baywatch movie.
Which I also didn't watch because it looked stupid.
Yeah. They filmed that in Savannah.
I remember because I was down the road and people were all like, you can be an extra in this movie. I'm like, why are they making
Yeah.
No.
It's a weird place for them to have picked, but it was funny just around.
Do you know if the movie, it's like actually set in Savannah or is it set somewhere else, but Savannah was cheaper?
I'm sure it's probably set somewhere else. Georgia just has really good discount, like, tax stuff for people who make movies. That's why, like, most of the stuff is made in Atlanta. Like, all the Marvel movies are made in Atlanta, and Walking Dead's filmed there and all that stuff.
I think because Georgia has an abundance of rundown looking kind of like more rural villages or not villages, but like towns.
Is that too, but I think the big thing is the tax credit. Because, like, Pinewood Studios opened a studio in Atlanta. This is the Pinewood from the UK.
From England.
Yeah. So, it's just cheaper for them to make movies there. I've got a couple of friends, actually, who do costuming, and they used to live in Atlanta, and they got a bunch of work for those movies. And so, like, they did some of the Hunger Games movies there. And so my friend Jill would be like, yeah, I got to do costumes for Jennifer Lawrence and so and they're really nice. Like, cool. But yeah, they did that. They did some Walking Dead stuff, and then I think that was all before the Marvel things came through. Anyway, reboots. Spider-Man was an excellent reboot that needed to happen. Which
one?
The latest one.
Concur.
So the one before that was
I didn't watch the one with Garfield. What's his name? Garfield, the Facebook guy?
That would be awesome if there was a Spider-Man with Garfield the cat as trying to be Spider-Man.
What's that guy's name?
Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield. I did not watch that one.
I saw the first one of those, but not the second one.
Okay, so with the reboots, I think I hinted at this once before. I have an irritation with movies, especially comic booky movies, that keep trying to reinvent themselves until they get it right. Like the Fantastic Four, and at the time, like Spider-Man. I don't like it how they can just arbitrarily, like, oh, now you're going to be Captain America, like Human Torch, or you're going to be Cyclops, but then you're also going to be in Spider-Man. Like, I don't like that.
Well, that only happens, well, not only. It mostly only happens in cases where the two properties are owned by different companies, and they don't care where the actor was before,
I get that. I feel it's insulting.
To who?
Me, as a moviegoer.
Really?
They're like, yeah, they're not going to care.
Do you care?
I kind of do.
Why?
I don't know. I think it's lazy storytelling.
What does that have to do with the story?
Or, okay, it's lazy casting.
But if someone's good for a part, wouldn't you rather have the good person for the part rather than just like, well, we better not use that guy who's perfect for this? I mean, can you think of anybody else who would be Captain America as well as Chris Evans? No, you can't.
For the sake of the argument, no.
So
I'll just say that.
Yeah, in that, if they were like, we got our Captain America, he's perfect.
Yeah, like, and I'm sure someone went,
we probably shouldn't use him.
Human Torch?
I'm sure it came up, yeah, but like, it's not worth not using that person just
no,
for...
I get it. It just, I don't like it.
You just like to complain about it.
No, I don't like it personally. It's something that I'm against.
I mean, I do think that maybe they could spend more time getting unknown people to play some of those parts. But maybe that's just, I don't know. Maybe those movies lose some of their draw if they don't have a big name, attached to them. Of course, I don't guess Chris Evans was really that big before he started doing that. Now he's huge.
Literally. He's a big guy.
He is a big dude. All right, what's another one?
Did you watch the Roseanne reboot?
I did not.
Neither did I. I know it was controversial. Did you care that there was a Roseanne reboot?
Nope.
Yeah, me neither.
I did used to watch Roseanne.
Mm-hmm. So did I.
But I don't think that I was like, yay, Roseanne's on tonight. It was
right.
like, oh, there's TV on tonight. Look, it's Roseanne. That's cool.
I got sent out of the room when Roseanne kissed Mariel Hemingway. Do you remember that episode?
I do not.
It was the first, lesbian kiss on, public TV. And they had a disclaimer. And my parents watched it, and they made me leave. I'm like, why? They're like, just leave. And then I found out later on, it was like, oh, because Roseanne kissed a girl. I'm like, ew, who wants to kiss Roseanne? Was my reaction. Not like, ew, yucky, girls are kissing. It was like, gross.
Fair enough.
Because I don't even remember what, I'm sure Dan had to kiss her because they were married or whatever, but yeah. No thanks.
No, that's funny. Let's see here. This is kind of a crazy set.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Me too.
But it's kind of crazy.
I'm trying to follow where I'm going.
Yeah, you have to flip it around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Another reboot that has been... How about a good reboot?
Okay.
Good reboot. See if we can think of one. Tomb Raider. Did you see the newest Tomb Raider?
I did not.
Okay.
I didn't watch the first Tomb Raider, so I was less
Oh.
excited to watch the other one.
So I love... Did you ever play the games?
No.
Oh, well, that's no fun. I did. I played the first Tomb Raider a lot. My friend Kevin had a PlayStation 1, and he lived in an apartment complex that was pretty far from where we lived. And so I went over there one night with a bunch of people and started playing this game. And I stayed there for 3 days.
Whoa.
I did not leave his house. And it was a long, well, it's when I went to college, we had Fridays off. So
wow,
we had
that's convenient.
We had 4 days a week, but the classes were 2.5 hours each.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had 4 classes, something like that over 4 days. No. Well, I mean, you had 2 of each class and you had 4 classes, I think. So you had 8 periods of 2.5 hours or something like that. I don't remember exactly. It's a long time ago. Anyway, so you had a whole bunch of class in 4 days, and then you had 3 days with no class so that you could do your studio type, if you're painting or you're building something or
That's
whatever.
Considerate.
I mean, it was a studio day, but you didn't have to be a class. Anyway, I spent from a Thursday night to a Monday morning at 2 or 3 in the morning playing Tomb Raider, nonstop in the dude's living room. And I don't think I even beat the game. I think I got close, but I didn't quite make it, if I remember correctly. But I loved that type of game because it wasn't like, here come hordes of bad guys and I just have to hope that I don't get hit with their bullets and I can, it was like you could hide. There's a lot of puzzles to figure out, stuff like that.
That was Metal Gear Solid for me. Did you play that?
Once or twice, but it never really hit with me.
I loved that game because there were times where, kind of like that, in a normal game, you're like, I have a gun, I have a knife, I have whatever, go and attack and just don't die. And this one, it was like, if you do that, everybody's going to come get you. So you have to be sneaky.
Stealthy, yeah.
And you have to think differently about a game. So I think for those same reasons, I was busy playing Metal Gear Solid.
So I played most of the Tomb Raider games, not all of them, because I just lost track over time. But one of there were like certain movements in the different games that were just like part of, like she would always have to climb across these ladders that were like hanging out over a waterfall or something. So it was like there's always a climb, like a hanging, walking on a ladder with your hands kind of deal. Mm-hmm. There was always like creeping along the edge of some face where you're flat against the wall. There was always these certain movements that were just very like, this is a Tomb Raider move.
Yeah.
And so the first two movies that they did were in the spirit of the character, but poorly done. And Angelina Jolie is just not.
See, I was never really a fan of Angelina Jolie. So when she was gonna play, it was like, eh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess she's done some good stuff, but that wasn't the spot for her. But it was, the first two movies were about the character. Mm-hmm. This one, the newest one, totally different actress, and I can't remember what her name is. It's about the spirit of the game. And so rather than them focusing on this large-chested, like long braided hair character for the entire movie, like, oh wow, like her shirt's not tight enough in this scene, so we should probably make it tighter. Instead of being that kind of a movie, it should be
raining, I think.
Yeah, she needs to be wet here. So instead of that kind of a movie, it was more about like, she's going on an adventure that she doesn't really want to go on. She's stuck in these situations. She has to survive a boat in a storm. And then she has to end up on an island, and she has to unlock these secret things, and she gets chased down by a bunch of guys with guns, and she has to, it's like all of the stuff from the game. And there were literal shots where I'm like, that's like, they almost did motion capture in reverse from the game to make that, and there were so many little things. I'm like, that's straight out of the game. That's awesome. Like, they actually did it good. And it's not a great movie. I mean, I'm not like, everybody needs to go see it. But if you like the games, that one feels like they took the game and they turned it into a movie. So I think it was definitely a worthwhile, while not a great movie and not the greatest movie of that type, it was a worthwhile reboot, I think. But if you don't have any context for Tomb Raider, then it probably wouldn't. It would just be like a bad video game movie.
So is that the thing?
Or a
now?
mediocre one.
It's not like, is it like the book, or is it like the video game?
I don't think that's, well, I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure how many other movies are made from video games.
Metal Gear Solid could do it.
You think so?
Mm-hmm. Solid Snake is a Rambo-esque type CIA-ish.
But I mean,
spy movie.
It would be a very stealthy, not a lot of high action stuff, a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and if they were to follow the games, right?
Yeah, a lot of blowing up, a lot of vehicles, some mech stuff. I think it'd be a cool movie, actually.
Maybe sabotage type stuff, because he did a lot of like going in and breaking things without getting caught and making things blow up, right?
That's kind of an oversimplification, but yeah. I mean, there's bad guys, and he's the only one because he has a backstory with the bad guy to like go get him.
And what was up with the people with the wings? There were like people with wings, right?
I don't remember.
There were so many games, and I briefly like touched one or two of them, and I don't even remember which. But I remember there was some character that was like his, I don't know, rubber snake or whatever his name was. One of the other snakes. There were other snakes, right?
I don't know. I only played Metal Gear Solid. Like, okay. It goes back pretty far.
Yeah.
But that's the only one that I played.
Anyway, there was some guy with wings, and my friend of mine was playing it, and I just had no idea what was going on. It didn't make any sense. But yeah, so maybe they'll make that into a movie someday. I don't know. Maybe they've already tried, and it didn't work. That's entirely possible. What's one that you liked? One reboot that you liked?
Man, this is why I had a list.
Well, get your list out.
I don't remember where the list went. Reboot that I liked.
Did you watch the show Reboot when you were a kid?
Yeah, we talked about that. I had. I watched. I wasn't a super fan, but I remember that show. I remember it not being bad.
The irony of rebooting a show called Reboot.
It would be.
I never saw it. I don't know anything about it. No, they did it.
Really?
Yeah.
They rebooted Reboot?
Yeah, and it's live action. It's on Netflix. I think it's like within the last year. Pretty recent.
Okay, so Thundercats. Yep.
Yeah.
I saw what they were going to be doing to Thundercats, and it's a Teen Titans Go-esque, like...
Adventure Time. Yeah.
It looked super stupid.
Okay, well, did you see the one from a few years ago, the first reboot?
I saw highlights of it. I didn't watch it, but I saw highlights of it, and I was like, that looked kind of cool.
It was good. It was really good. And they didn't finish it. Nobody watched it. They killed it before they finished the first season. Big disappointment. So we have these new cats we talked about. And I was trying to talk to the kids about, we're working on names, and we're trying to figure out what to name them. So 4 kids trying to name 3 cats is insanity. But so we're talking through all these different options. I'm voting for Nacho and Steven for the 2 boys myself, but I don't think it's going to win. And I walked through the names for the Thundercats and realized that the kids had never seen, like they had probably heard of it, but they had never really seen it. So I was saying these names, and the names on their own, without the context of having liked the show, were pretty stupid.
Chitara.
Yeah.
And
like
Lion.
Tiger. What's his name? Tigress? Tigra? I guess it's Tigra. Panthro.
Panther. Yeah.
Like, they're just not great names.
And
so,
Snarf.
Snarf. So it's kind of hard to sell those as cat names, but
I think Chitara would have had the cooler name.
yeah. And if our girl cat looked at all like her, that would be a good one, but she doesn't. She looks like a
She's
panther.
not a biped and walk around. Skinny waist.
No. I mean, she's like dark gray and fluffy.
Cat.
Yeah, I know. Like, I was like, why don't you look like the cartoon
Do
character?
better.
Yeah, so those names didn't fly, and it's been really funny trying to get them to come up with names. And
Do they have names yet, or is it still just temporarily until they just becomes their name?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to end up kind of sticking. They had names when we got them that were the girl who rescued them kind of gave them. And they were found in under a dumpster behind a bank. It's called Magnolia Bank. So she named the girl Magnolia, called her Maggie for short. And then there was Cash.
I like that name.
Yeah, that one's kind of sticking. And then Tell for Teller, which that's the one we don't really like. But that's where the names came from. Like kind of interesting. But nobody's really sold on any of them, so I don't know. But we also can't decide on better ones. Cyborg is in the running, and I really like that. To have a cat named Cyborg would be pretty awesome. I was also shooting for Battle Cat, but I can't get.
It's a lot of syllables. It's cool.
They are pretty much all on board, the 2 brothers being Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. And I'm really excited because that might actually happen, but getting them to officially commit. And I don't know how we would shorten those.
Yep.
Because you don't want to call them that. But, man, it'd be cool. Because there's 2 brothers that are similar, but not exactly the same looking. So.
But you could call a cat whatever you want.
Oh,
I don't think the cat's going to.
Yeah. Well, and that's
care.
like one of my kids wants to name one of them Mr. Pickles.
Sure.
And nobody else wants that. So I'm like, man, you can call him anything you want. You call him Mr. Pickles all day long.
It's not like you're going to whistle to the cat and it's going to come gleefully jogging up to you.
They might.
You rang?
Yeah. So I don't know where the names are going to stand. I'll keep everybody posted.
I've always had really definitive names with animals.
What have your animals been named?
So we got, it was like a month after we got married, we got a boxer. And the boxer's name was Brody.
How did you get to that name?
Brody was a character on Mallrats, which was a Kevin Smith movie that at the time I really liked. And I just thought it was a cool name. I wanted to name a kid if we have one Brody, and Tiff didn't really like it. So as a compromise, all right, we're going to get an animal. We'll name him Brody. It just worked.
Yep.
And then Brody died, and then we got a rescue dog who was already named. And it's not like a kitten or a puppy that you can just kind of rebrand really quick.
Yeah.
It was already established. That dog already answered to, her name was Flora and not Fauna, I guess. I don't know if it was a matched pair. But she responded to that, so that stayed. I feel like these 2 pieces should have been used somewhere.
Yeah, I'd say so.
These
I used mine.
These should not be left over. Uh-oh. Well, and then we got the hedgehog that Deacon named Scotch, which I was completely indifferent on the hedgehog. That was something that Tiff wanted. I really didn't care. Whatever it was named. I keep calling it a hamster. She doesn't enjoy that, surprisingly enough.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah. Oh, these go on the bottom. That's easy. And then the dog that we have now, His name is Buckley, and that comes from a Wes Anderson movie called The Royal Tenenbaums. They had this cute little beagle. His name was Buckley. So, a lot of movies that just like a name kind of resonates, and I'm like, I like it.
Yeah.
It's somewhat unique. It just kind of sticks. Don't really know why.
The only name like that we've taken from somewhere else, our lab, Sydney, when we had 2 labs. They were litter mates, and we got them. Jenny was there when they were born, so we've had them pretty much since the beginning, since they were weaned off. But one of them, they were both light colored. So one of them, naked, without fur, looked like a hamster. Mm-hmm. And so our friend Tiffany that we got him from started naming him Hamster, and then it turned into Hammer because his dad's name was Hammer. Ah. And then Sydney was named after the character in Alias. Did you ever watch Alias?
With Jennifer.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Yeah, Jennifer Garner. It was a really cool spy TV show.
When I was deployed, people watched it, and I kind of half watched it.
Yeah, it was a good show for a while, and then it got a little wacky. But it was something that we watched when we were first married or dating or something. I don't remember. And so we ended up using that name for the dog, and she's still here, old lady. But other than that, like they've all been. I had a rabbit named Aristotle one time for no particular reason, just picked the name. And then we had a cat. One cat was named Pixie, and I don't remember how that name came about. And then the other one that we got when we first started dating, it took us like 4 or 5 weeks to come up with a name for this kitten. We got it when it was really small, and we just could not come up with the right name. So we asked a bunch of people, got input from people, and all this, thought about all these different things. Ended up turning out that he was just a complete turd, and just would terrorize everyone and the other cat. And so we named him Bomber because he was a terrorist. And
that's clever.
His name was
Very
Bomber.
Clever.
And we had him for 14 years or something like that until this past year. So
were you attached to Bomber at all?
In the beginning, I liked him a lot because he was fun. And then the older he got, just the more... He wasn't a loving cat in any way. Yeah. He's the kind that would just bite you and just turn on you in a heartbeat. And he beat up on the older cat. She was a lot smaller than him. He was like a 16, 17-pound cat. He was a big cat. And he would beat up on her, and he just wasn't cool. Yeah. And so I, over the years, just got to where I didn't really want to have anything to do with him. Yeah. And, we just didn't get along. But
it was mutual.
Yeah, it was kind of mutual. He didn't really like me so much. Unfortunately, I have to go. So
you got to go be husband.
I got to go be husband, dad. So you started another bag.
I'm on bag 2.
Oh man, we're gonna get out of sync.
All right, I'll stop.
Out of sync. Cool. Well, where can everybody find you?
Find me on Instagram at the PI Workshop.
The PI Workshop, and both of us at I Like to Make Stuff. All the places on all the things. And, sorry if it's short this week, rambly, but that's what we do. Mm-hmm. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.